What's up, beautiful people? How y'all doing? How y'all doing out there? We are back for another episode of CannaTalk with Roz. I am your host today. Normally I'm your co-host, but for the month of July, I'm going to be serving as your host because we sent Roz away. We told her she need to go sit down somewhere and rest. Y'all know she is the hardest working woman in cannabis. So we gave her the month of July off, and so I will be steering the ship and be here with, again, all of our fabulous guests. We are still going to be bringing y'all such fire on every Friday that we come in. So, and today is no different, man. So I'm super excited for the conversation we're going to have today. Y'all do me a favor. Make sure y'all like and share this. And make sure y'all go ahead and tap some other people in. Let them know that we're going to have a good conversation today. We're going to talk about some history or the historical things that are happening in cannabis. And so my guests are all coming to you guys as natives of Virginia. And so we're going to talk today about Virginia. The first person I'm going to bring up is no stranger to the show. And definitely, somebody you guys have seen with M4MM as of late. He is blazing so many trails in Virginia. None other than Mr. Antoine Hines, our VA chapter president. What's up, Antoine? What's going on?
What up? From Virginia. July 1st, we are legalized in our households. We can do what we want. We can go out there and party. Oh, we still got regulations. Sorry.
It's some rules, and we're gonna get into it. But I love it. I love it.
Right.
Next person I want to bring up is somebody who's going to be really talking to us about what those rules and that, what that looks like for VA. Because at the end of the day, enough of us got locked up for this. We don't want to continue to get locked up. So that means, and we'll talk about this some more too, but as we get into more, further down this legalization rabbit hole, if you will, that means we also got to follow the rules, y'all. I mean, it's just no two ways about it. We got to get in line so that we can continue to be a part of our families and a part of our community. So Miss Chelsea Higgins Wise of Marijuana Justice, Virginia. I had the pleasure of sitting in on a couple of the calls that Antoine has had. And so I've heard you speak before. So I already know what fire you bring into the table. But Miss Chelsea, how are you doing today?
I'm really great to be here. Chelsea Higgs Wise, Richmond, Virginia. And like Antoine said, we're just in a celebratory mode, but really also want to make sure that people know what's the lay of the land right here.
That's right. And this last brother I'm bringing in is somebody who I had the opportunity to meet prior to his current role. So I'm excited to talk about even his transition and so on. But Ernest Tooney, he's coming to us today from Denver, Colorado, but is from Virginia. And so, his home state. And, like most of us, when we see our home state starting to make moves, we definitely want to be a part of that. And so he's here. He's going to talk to us about Bipocan and his his group and his company and what he's doing to continue to help make sure that we bring as many minorities into this industry as possible. So my brother Ernest, what's going on, man?
Hey, Eric, thanks for having me here. Antoine, Chelsea, excited to meet y'all and excited for everything that's going on in Virginia, ready to jump into it.
Yes, absolutely.
Make some impact.
And we're definitely going to talk about it. But this show couldn't be as good as it is if we didn't respond to current events, right? And so we do have a discussion we're going to get into today, but we got to start this conversation off right. Shikari Richardson, right? The queen is beasting on the track, hands down. Beasting on the track. Hold on, we got another one coming in. So let me introduce our last guest, and then we're gonna come back to that. So, Miss Keisha, welcome to the stage. Thank you for joining us. We were just about to get into some conversation, but I'm glad you're here. So, real quick, introduce yourself to people. Tell them who you are and where you are. What part of Virginia you're in right now?
Hi, I'm broadcasting live, I guess, from Norfolk, Virginia. Hi, everyone.
Nice.
I have the luxury and the pleasure of working with Antoine here in the Hampton Roads area for social equity for minorities for medical marijuana, of course. So I'm here.
That's right. Family is in the building. Y'all see it. We here. So what we were just about to talk about is this whole Shikari Richardson
Right.
situation, and you know, her testing positive for, how was it put? I always love to see how people word these things too, like a substance found in cannabis. Like, I mean, let's just be real. Like, call it what it is, right? And I guess what frustrates me is that here we are, 20 years into states legalizing medical marijuana, 20 plus years, 10 plus, almost 10 years for adult use being legal in states, industrial hemp being legal at the federal level, and yet we still apologizing for this plant and how we use this plant to heal ourselves. Like, this is really, really crazy. So I want you guys to weigh in, and just to set the tone for everybody who's joining us today. Shikari Richardson won the Olympic trial to be able to run the 100 meters. She tested positive for, now I'm not even going to get into why she was tested, or, you know, how all of that goes and everything. You know, we know many of these sports agencies have very antiquated laws and so on. But she tested positive, and now she's on a suspension for a month or something like that. And she could potentially miss the Olympics next year, all because of this plant. And the context that I think sometimes is often missed is just days before running and winning this Olympic trial, she lost her mother. We as a community deal with so much trauma and so much pain, and for a long time we as a community have been self-medicating and doing that in, you know, behind closed doors in the, you know, legacy market. But she lived in a state that it was legal. Like, I mean, so Chelsea, I see you shaking your head. I want to get you to weigh in on this first. I mean, just your thoughts. Like, just tell me what you're thinking.
Well, number one, it's like they don't want us to win, right? I mean, that's what I always feel like. Here comes something else. And the same old scheme, which is the drug war and marijuana, right? This seems really old, but it also, like you said, that this has been on medicinal purposes for us for such a long time, and how we use it, and how the system, I say the system, but there are many systems, right? This is a sports system, has now used it, reframed it to criminalize us. And to criminalize our new superstar, right? They had to do something to disrupt that for us, right? Like we were too excited. So yeah.
I mean, and you hit on something there too. You can't help but you know, recognize that she's on top of the world, and it feels like somebody is trying to knock her off. Like, I mean, you call it what it is, right? Ernest, what are your thoughts on this, man? You know, have you been paying attention to this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to give you a couple of different perspectives. And first off, I'm going to frame this by saying, you know, before I transitioned into the cannabis industry, my career was in the sports world. You know, I did track and field, cross country in high school, ran in the Junior Olympics at Norfolk State back in, you know, the late 90s, and ended up, you know, working for, you know, some national governing bodies within that work directly for the U.S. Olympic Committee. I've been in a position where I have traveled internationally with athletes, and you have these, you know, you have the U.S. Anti-Doping Association where you have to comply. You have the World Anti-Doping Association where you have to comply. And I think that one of the challenges is that you have this, you know, the plant is still, you know, a Schedule I. It's still federally illegal in all but, you know, a handful of countries, right? And I think what happens is you have those folks who are looking at it from that vantage point and not even thinking about the context that, you know, we and our people have experienced, not really thinking about like the human elements of what Shikari just had to go through with the loss of her mother, not thinking about the, you know, the healing and wellness and beneficial aspects of the plant. And you have this very rigid, you know, view where it's okay, it's a banned substance list, therefore you can't use it. When I think about what it's meant to me, as an athlete and working in sport, especially like when you have your chance for, people that look like you to be in places of success, like those are your role models. That creates opportunity. Like you could have had an opportunity to bring, you have so many people who are excited to see Shikari compete, in the Olympics, someone that looks like her, and that has the potential to do what we just saw. My home. I went to James Madison University. Our team just made it to the College World Series. Odyssey was the one that just captured everybody, the imagination of all these young girls who want to play softball. I mean, you have this opportunity to get, young Black girls excited about playing the sport.
Right.
I mean, I think there's just so much opportunity that you have just from like a sports standpoint. And so I think that with her absence, if she's not able to participate, I think that's just going to be awful.
Yeah.
But I think it's bigger than that. We know in 2028 the Olympics are going to be in LA, right? The biggest industry at present, for cannabis. I got to think that at some point in the next few years, there's going to have to be a shift between the way that the Olympics is going to think about the plan.
Yeah, I think it has to be a shift in a lot of across the board, with a lot of different organizations. And I guess I'm curious as to why it's taking so long, right? I know we're going to talk about even, in the context of what's going on in Virginia, how we have to operate within the confines of the rules, right? So, again, nobody can make the argument that, she should, the rules were there. She knew the rules. I get that part. But I think you're right. We're missing the human side of this. And that's where I think we're missing, like you said, how this inspires future generations. But there's also that economic side of it, too. And I think, like you said, her not being at the Olympics, think about how many people were planning to go, to go see her, right? Like so many people who may have never thought to go buy a ticket to go to the Olympics would now go and, purchase a ticket to go. Plane tickets, the global economy wins with people like Shikari Richardson, right? And so I see it and I get it. And I know we still have a lot of work to do in changing rules and changing minds and changing hearts. But I hope that we get to that work sooner than later. And I think that sometimes too often large organizations like the Olympics and so on are allowed to be reactionary versus being proactionary. And it's like we see what's happening, right? And the same thing with other countries, right? Everybody's waiting on the U.S. to legalize federally. Everybody. I mean, whether they want it right now or not, that's what everybody is waiting on, and the U.S. is the bottleneck for that. So we got to get to that work. But I'm gonna pause the conversation on that. We stand in solidarity with Ms. Richardson, and we say, listen, let her run, and Olympics get with the program. Y'all need to get with the program and quick. So. But we came on to talk about something else today. So I want us to get to that historic, turn of events for you guys in Virginia. And Antoine, I'll let you, get us started out because you came in with so much energy and excitement. So I know this means a lot to you. This was something that was, very important to you. So just tell me, how does it feel? What is the mood and the feeling there in Virginia?
Well, definitely. July 1st, we done got the day done and everything, and the day came, and it was like so much waiting and so much back and forth and everything. And definitely over the past few months, and I've only been involved in this over the past few months. Definitely, Chelsea and Kasia have been involved much longer than me. But just the whole point of going from the medical side and having problems in the medical side too, to even to the point of going, just to say, okay, now July 1st, we can have plants in our house so I can take care of, I can feel good, I can feel legalized instead of having to do it so much illegal. And so, it's just that leeway of something coming off of your head, even if you were doing it, and definitely figuring out how we can even do it more and grow and show other people and have that ability to say that things are changing.
Yeah.
You know, that's the part. Things are changing. So it came to date. So now we have to even more push forward to more change, more social equity, more opportunities for African Americans, more the laws and you said economics, and people are in prison because of this $1 billion industry right now, and making sure we get our Black brothers and sisters out, expunge their records, and let them turn that illegal part into a legal business. Those social equity licenses. It's a lot of things into that. And what happened
absolutely.
July 1st.
Absolutely. And again, this was history, right? And history doesn't happen without some other history happening before that, right? And you talked about how both Chelsea and Keisha have been a part of that. So Keisha, tell me, I guess, what the events that led up to where we are, right? In a short fashion, because I know people have probably been fighting for this for decades in your state, but over the last couple of years, we've seen some real turning of the tide across the country. So what has led up to this over the last couple of years?
I'll be honest with you. I think it was, from my standpoint, I think it was a lot of the parents that have children that have medical issues that can benefit from using medical cannabis, using CBD. Myself, I have a grandson that suffers from seizures. And how I got into this was because taking him to the doctor, and the doctor's giving me options like Valium and other medicines for a 2-year-old. I said there has to be something better, something natural that can help him with his seizures. And that started my journey into studying more about how cannabis can help us with these medical issues that a lot of us suffer from. There are people that have seizures, lupus, MS. This July 1st was a liberation day for many people that suffer with medical issues that can be treated naturally by using cannabis. So I would say that getting to this point was years and years and years of people pushing and saying, look at the medical properties, look at how we can benefit medically from using this plant. And that's my take on it. And as well as people saying, look, brown, Black people have been over criminalized for use of this plant. This has to stop. Too many people are locked up because of this plant. This has to stop. And I'm glad we're here. Here. And I'm grateful for everybody that has worked on this journey to get us where we are today. And the work is not done. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. We still got a lot more to do. I need everybody to still keep focused so that we could keep pushing on, because the law is the first step, but it is still a little, it needs a little bit more work.
And that's a perfect segue, to where I wanted to go. Antoine mentioned earlier, there's still a lot of problems with the medical program, right? And then, adult use is going to have its own problems, and hemp is going to have its own problems. But, Chelsea, can you lay out for us, what's in this new, give us the framework of what this new change means for people.
Yeah, I think a great way to introduce this July 1, 2021 is to tell people that this is truly a response to the racial justice disappropriation or disproportionate impacting of policing from marijuana. So as we go through the laws of possession, as we go through things, there's a lot of murky and things that just do not make sense. And so what I want to tell people is that we did this at this moment, not necessarily to expand the direct access of marijuana, but actually reduce the access of Black and brown people to law enforcement around marijuana. So if you don't understand,
that's an important context right there. And I hope people really understand what she's saying. We want to make sure people are getting access and have safe access to this. But I guess the approach here was more so, how do we keep our Black and brown people out of handcuffs first and foremost, and not in those situations. So go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, thank you for that, because people may not know, if you hadn't been following, is that Virginia had no plans to legalize until 2024, until March. It actually passed House and Senate as 2024. And when it got to the governor's desk, it was voices like everyone on this panel got together and said, because Black people are still being penalized at 4 times the rate as white people, even after we decriminalized in 2020, y'all. That's what I need to say.
Yeah.
We decriminalized marijuana in 2020, and the legislator was like, all right, cool, we did it. We can wait till 2024. But our coalition, the Legalize It Right Coalition, actually FOIA'd the information, which is Freedom of Information Act, and got the information of, hey, since June or July 1 of 2020, and that moment it was end of January 2021, while we were in General Assembly, realizing that they were not going to do it quickly. We saw that the numbers of the desperate enforcement was still there. So that is why there was a sudden shift to do it this summer and not wait for 3 years, because they could not dismiss the people's voice to say, stop locking us up, stop penalizing us, stop feeing us to death with $25 fines, just stop it.
Yeah, because you're so right. This is why we say there is no real protection until we have full legalization. Because and you know, a couple things in that, what happens is under decriminalization, we put the onus in the hands of the police officer, right? And we know we oftentimes don't win in those situations, and that's just me putting it mildly, right? But the other part of that is, one of the things we have grossly underestimated across the board in cannabis is the need to retrain and retool law enforcement for dealing with this plant. It has to be done. States and local municipalities have to put funding towards the retraining and retooling of our police around this plant. It has to happen.
So Eric, I would really caution people from using that language specifically. So let me tell you what Virginia did in response to that. Okay, so we're going to train police, right? We're going to retrain police around this plant. So they put over $1 million into drug recognition experts. And this is now their training of police to use that in traffic laws and traffic stops. So now, because we can no longer use the smell of marijuana to stop and seize folks in law enforcement, they are now giving them money to retrain them to use their eyes instead of their nose, to say, hey, this is how we're going to stop and seize you and continue to enforce the plan. I'm really here to say, you know what we need to tell and retrain them to do? Just leave it alone. That doesn't take a lot of training. We teach a 2-year-old to say, stop it, let it go. It does not take $1 million. It does not take DREs. I want to give a quick how harmful these DREs in New Jersey, they're using them in corporations and employment areas. So cops are coming in with that training funded by the people and training your coworker to now snitch on you if you have red eyes, and now you are criminalized at work. So I want to really cautious people on saying that we need that type of training. What I would really enforce people is say that we need more resources to the regulations and to the safety nets. The police don't need any more money for training, because they're the ones that are creating the trainings themselves. And we see what happens.
And I think that last point is where I feel like the root of that problem is. I am not in favor of giving them more money for them to go and do that training. That has to be from an outside organization, and there need to be more community integrated platforms that are watching the police in some essence. And so no, I agree with you. But the reason why we do have to retrain them, because even I got case in point, you know, my wife is an attorney. We have cases here in Florida where someone has a medical marijuana card and been pulled over at a traffic stop, and that that police officer doesn't know, you know, whether or not they are allowed to go into a dispensary and have that. So if, say for instance, you left your house, everybody's left their house without a driver's license before, right? Well, if you leave your house without that medical marijuana card and you have your medicine in the car, that police officer hasn't been trained on how to even figure out whether or not you can legally obtain that. You can go to your dispensary and still get your medicine just using your ID. You don't need your medical marijuana card at that time because you've been entered into that registry. Our law enforcement have no clue about that. all they are just told is that now somebody can go and get it medically, and and then in the car they don't know what's the difference between what came from a dispensary, or they don't even know the names of the dispensaries. And so there's a lot that has to be done. And I agree that that shouldn't be from an internal standpoint. That should certainly be from organizations like ours providing those type of trainings and funded by our government to be able to provide them. And so I'm certain that Marijuana Justice Virginia could do a bang up job in helping our law enforcement when they do come in contact with it to understand what they need to do. But I agree the approach here of let's do it in the homegrown side of it, or have it in your house. Talk about that some, and then Ernest, I want you to come in as well, and we're going to talk a little bit about the business side of things as well.
Right. So let me quickly just go over. I like to talk about the different spaces of possession. Right now, what do the laws look like in your different spaces where you live and breathe in possession? So you mentioned the house, right? So home cultivation, you can have up to 4 plants in your home. That's it, per home, not per person. At first it was per person in the law, but now it is per home. In the home at 21 and older, everything that we're talking about before possession is 21 and older. There are penalties for under 21. But if you're over 21 in a private home, you also are able to legally share under an ounce. There's no gifting scheme. There's no trading of things, but it's like sharing a bottle of wine. And then if you are home cultivating and you do have plants in your home, make sure they're out of public view. They cannot be in a window where people can come see it. It really has to be in the privacy of your home and properly labeled. So that is some safety protections around your 4 plants in your home. In your vehicle, I also already mentioned that they have upped their dollars and resources to penalize and target us while in the vehicle. A big part right now is that you can have up to an ounce on your person, but it does have to be in the car. A really tricky thing right now is that it's supposed to be sealed, because they also enacted an open container clause that our Marijuana Justice Coalition and Legalize It Right was heavily against. But this open container means that until we are legally selling it, nothing is actually sealed, even if you have it in your trunk, right? So, but please have it in your trunk. I am a little bit worried that if people are smoking a cigarette, it's going to look like a joint. Cops are going to say, I saw it with my eyes, smell it. And next thing you know, they found a gun, and it's not even about marijuana, right? These same tools around traffic stops. And then we've also got schools and campuses where it's just not legal. You're not able to have nor possess marijuana, including on universities. Many get their federal funding from universities. So there is still a complete ban on that zero tolerance policy, which we know is just another link to the school to prison pipeline.
Yeah.
And then your public space. So there is no public consumption, y'all. No public consumption. You cannot smoke in public. You're not supposed to be eating it in public. And so
so no lighting up in the park, y'all. No sitting on on your balcony and all of that. Let me ask you this. One thing I thought about when you talked about the 21 and over in your home. What about those people who have children and underage kids? Are they still is the law nuanced enough to protect them, or are they still in jeopardy?
Eric, I mean, you asked me the laws.
I know it was a bit leading, but
yeah, a big part that we hope to bring to the 2022 General Assembly is some information around the child welfare system criminalizing marijuana and removals from children in the home because of marijuana. And so, in our opinion, we do not think that we know that impact well enough, and the law was not written nuanced enough. It is just to keep out of the hands of underage folks. And so that is, again, to me,
it's wide open. Yeah, it leaves a lot of room, and that's why I asked, is it nuanced enough? Because that's where we sometimes miss that ball. About those little nuances that we don't think about people in their many different circumstances, because many different circumstances, the way we live and so on. But I want to turn the conversation a little bit to what this means from a business standpoint. Right now, there are obviously this isn't you can't start doing like home deliveries and like you're like that side of the business is not what is being impacted here. But I think one of the things that Ernest and I have talked about before are those ancillary side of things, right? Those things that are your buckets. If you can grow at home now, who's providing that? If you're using lights and so on. So Ernest, talk a little bit about the business side of it and where you see the opportunities for people now that we've moved forward and folks can now possess this in different scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely. When I first entered the cannabis industry, I was working over at Marijuana Business Daily, which puts on the big MJ BizCon, the big global business conference and expo. That's where Eric and I met a couple of years ago. And, after being involved on sort of like the business side for a couple of years, it's really easy to see just how vast this industry is and how much opportunity there is for you to participate. And what I noticed, in addition to the overwhelming lack of minority ownership and in all aspects of the industry, what you see is that this industry is not just about having a license to cultivate or to grow or to have a retail shop, and it really requires support of all of these other services to keep it afloat. So while Virginia is going to be using this next year to figure out what the rules and regulations look like for folks who want to try to get various types of licensing for recreational purposes, I think there's an opportunity right now for folks who provide services, who are interested in becoming entrepreneurs, to get involved in this industry so that they're ready when that time comes. So, even if you go through the process of getting a license, there's probably a waiting period. You may have to, pay, rent property or pay for real estate and play that.
Not cheap.
Yeah, and it's highly complex. It's very difficult. It's not just getting a winning lottery ticket and then your problems are solved. I mean, you're gonna have to fork out a lot of money and then wait. And then, so what I think about is this industry is just like any other industry where if you have a service or a skill set, there's a place for you to be involved. So let's say I get a license. Before I even start that process, I should be thinking about who can I contract or hire to provide security, or who is going to do my legal counsel or my accounting or my marketing and things like that. So this is where I think that there are a ton of opportunities, because usually when I talk to folks, and over the past couple of years, I talked to family and friends back at home, and it's always, I'm excited I can consume. I'm excited about how to get a license. And few people are thinking about what can I do that I already have expertise in and apply that to the cannabis industry. So
yeah,
some of the projects I'm working on right now are really just about that, trying to create like an entry point for folks who are interested in entrepreneurship, interested in providing their services so they can get involved, and then using the network, educating, providing resources so that you can get plugged in to do business. We always hear folks say that the barriers to entry to this industry are so heavy related to access to capital. 100% if you're trying to get a license.
Right.
But you can spend, a couple $1,000s and establish yourself as like a leading business owner in whatever vertical you choose. If you're, find your niche and build your empire. So that's what that's what we're trying to
do, man. And it's so needed and it's so awesome. I always try to give people this message that we have to expand our thought process about this plant and what it can do, and what we can do with it, and how we can exist in this space. You're absolutely right. If you're trying to go get a dispensary, have a dispensary or a grow, yeah, that's going to be capital intensive. If you're trying to develop your own products, that's going to be capital intensive. But what about that person who has a grow shop already and he's trying to get his products out there? He just needs different markets and avenues. Can't you create a market for his products and then just be the middleman? We got to start thinking outside the box and thinking differently. That's not a capital intensive endeavor. I mean, Keisha talking about her grandson. That's another business model. Teaching grandmothers how to care for their grandkids with this plant. Teaching families how to, do that. So providing that education service is another business model. So Keisha, I see you shaking your head, and I don't know if that was already in the works, but go ahead and make it happen. What are you seeing, from that standpoint with people who are like my mother right now is thinking about a business in the cannabis space. She's been a home healthcare provider. And so, we talked about how she can even talk to the families about providing CBD or whatever the case may be, and then just using affiliate links and so on. So I'm just curious, Keisha, are you seeing amongst your peer networks and so on a greater interest in folks looking at how to get into this space as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things that I hear the most is, oh, I want to own a dispensary. I want a dispensary. I want a dispensary. And I think people don't realize how much it takes to actually own a dispensary. And there's so many other things that you can do in this industry besides owning a dispensary. Education is key. I offer classes on how to home grow, how to maximize your yield with 4 plants, whether hydro or soil is the way to go for you. And just teaching. I think education is a big area right now. There's a big market for education, especially in Virginia, especially since the only thing we technically can do is grow in our homes. So teaching people how to grow in their homes, how to legally grow in their homes, how to maximize their yield of buds in their homes, I think that's the way to go right now, as well as preparing yourself if you want to own a dispensary in 2024. Like you said, the licensing, the money, having a building. I have a hemp license. I'm a licensed hemp processor, but I still had to have a building. The license process for hemp took almost 6 months.
Yeah.
Just having your trademarks and having everything, you have to roll out a lot of money in the beginning before you even get started. We haven't even rolled out any product yet, and we're already thousands and thousands and thousands in on money being spent, as well as you say, rent on a building until you can get started. So I agree 100% with looking at other opportunities in the field, in the industry, um, learning as much as you can, taking classes, taking courses, whether it be business courses, whether it be cannabis courses, just learning as much as you can, preparing yourself for 2024 in Virginia and being civically engaged. Because while we're all getting excited, yay, July 1st, this can easily go back the other way. So we must be civically engaged. We must keep putting pressure on our politicians and saying, look, we got to keep going and got to keep moving forward as far as changing these laws as well.
Yeah, and that's so important, because as we just talked about with Chelsea, it's not nuanced. And so that means that there are still gaping holes that need to be filled. That work has to be done. And if we're not a part of that, then it's going to be, we're going to find ourselves with a framework where we can have it at home, but not have it at home. You know what I mean? Like there'll be those type of scenarios. Go ahead, Chelsea. You want to say something?
Let's be real. That's the framework we're working in right now, right? It is completely okay for some folks to have it. It's an indirect law, right? But that's how what happens when it is not nuanced, and why we see this desperate impact and who it's really enforced against, right?
Right.
So yeah.
I mean, and that so we have to remain vigilant. And I always say that you can't exist in this industry as a business owner and not be, politically active, motivated. And that looks different for everybody. That's not to say everybody got to drive up to the state house. You know what I mean? That's why organizations like M4MM exist. And, exactly. Let's put that website back up there. There we go. MarijuanaJustice.org. That's why they exist, because we are willing and prepared to go to the state house, and we have the infrastructure to do that. We need your voices to support the work that we're doing. So when we say send an email or make a phone call, we need y'all doing that. That stuff actually matters. And then when it gets to time to vote, right? I mean, listen, let's talk about it. Antoine, talk about the impact of the election and your governor on you guys moving this forward?
Well, we got to talk about before we even say that. So with the state of Virginia, we got to talk about making sure that this governor had the whole controversy with blackface. This is what it changed the tides. He got caught with blackface and everything back in school. It came out. He almost lost his whole job and everything, but it was a 360 turn. Everybody was saying, make him, fire him, get him out of there. But he wound up taking on so many African Americans, so many things changed. We've pushed so many things in the state of Virginia because of what happened and everything, but it started from there. Now we have a lot of people who are at different places. Emails are coming out, funding is coming down. I'm working with the Black Chamber of Commerce. We just had emerging cannabis industries. We have a lot of things happening, CBD, all those different things around that realm and stuff. And so definitely making sure that we have the right elected officials in place, not just the governor, but we have city council members. You know, we have congressmen out there, congresswomen, Senate leaders. You have to know who those are and who you're voting for. So every election is important, and making sure that they keep in word to what they say. You know, keep them accountable. You know, they may say something on TV right here, and that I'm all on it, but then they vote a different direction. Then don't vote for them next time, and let's make it public that they didn't go in our direction.
Absolutely, we have to be, and you know, for cannabis, for a lot of people, cannabis is people are single issue voters when it comes to cannabis, which is tough for our communities, you know, because we are not typically single issue voters. So, and I think that sometimes makes it difficult for us to get people behind this. But I know that we have to, like you said, we have to be active both at the local levels, the state level, and then, you know, organizations like ours are also active at the federal level, because again, that's going to be coming soon. And, you know, if you think that your state internally is already going to have issues with this, wait till we get federal legalization and how that blows up everything across every state. And so we have to continue building these relationships with our elected officials. We have to continue, you know, identifying people we can put into place, you know, down the road. Like, we got a big election coming up here in Florida next year. We have to be a part of, you know, making sure that the right people, like you said, are in the right seats. I know we're going to be wrapping up here in just a little bit more, but I want to make sure that people understand the resources that are available to them. Somebody asked earlier about, you know, is there anybody who is doing education for somebody how to speak to police officers if they're pulled over, right? So again, you know, looking at what that looks like, and just the education, you know, not just from the medical benefits, but how to interact with, you know, police officers if they come into your home, right? Like that is now going to be another situation that we have to anticipate. There may be some issues there. So I don't know, anybody can take it if they want to jump in and talk about, you know, some of the resources and tools for people, you know, to educate themselves and educate their families.
Yeah, I'll definitely jump in, and I'll say that, you know, building certain tools like Know Your Rights and Legalize It Right. And I will drop something in there too. That's a Google Drive that's open for folks, and some digital flyers and some things I will pass on. But when you ask these questions about what happens, what do you say when they come into your home, right? It is just standing in what you know to be legal, right? And if someone comes to your home and standing in that they do not have access to this, it's my right to have up to 1 ounce. It's my right to have up to 4 plants, and really stating in what is legal, and really encouraging people not to go into too much defense of what you're doing wrong. State what is legal and state what you're doing. And I want to also really quickly go back to what you were saying, Eric, about the voting. And here in Virginia, it's important for people to know that we have elections every single year. We are not a referendum state. And so what Antoine was talking about of listening to what they say during the campaign and bringing it to the state house is so important. So you don't just hold them accountable on the back end. You can do it in the moment in those committee meetings. And you can come with these stories to say, this is what happened. This is why I did not feel safe with this law, and we can continue to work on this. But some resources, please continue to follow. If you follow us on social media, go to THC Justice Now. We have some slides up. We have a training guide with the code sections of the law to look them up with yourself. And we have a digital one page, or it's actually 2-page flyer that you can print out as well. And I will drop those in the chat in just a second. And next Wednesday at 6:30, July the 7th, you can join Marijuana Justice on Zoom and with some of our coalition partners to ask more about this and this information. So those are some resources right off.
I want to piggyback on that. So with resources and stuff, definitely. Like I said, with Minorities for Medical Marijuana, I'm the chapter president. Definitely join our chapter. We have a private group that we share information. I share information in different places. I have another group that's buying land, looking to farm hemp, and then when cannabis comes, definitely building up to that. So definitely all those things. But I'm definitely around the education part. So educating yourself, understanding that there are cannabis nurses, there are different programs out there. Kasia, I'm gonna pass it over to Kasia because she has an event coming up tomorrow that she's definitely wants to put out, and I definitely want people to support her.
Right. If you're in the Hampton Roads area, we're doing a home grow class. So the class tomorrow just basically goes over the basics before you go out there and spend thousands of dollars. I'm getting a 10, I'm getting a 5x5 10. Getting this $1,000 light, like, do you really need all of that to grow in your home? So we go over the basics. We teach people, especially the law. The law says you have to mark your plants. You have to put your name. You got to put your driver's license on your plants. I'm not sure if they're going to have plant police, but just in case they do, you do have to mark your plants in Virginia. So we're going to talk about that in the class. We're going to talk about whether soil or hydro is the best growing method for you, what makes sense for you, and again, how to maximize your yield, because everybody, even though you can have an ounce on yourself, on your person, there is no place in the law that says how much you can actually have in your house if you're growing it. So that's important, especially for people that want to grow and want to grow their own medicine. How do I keep a regular supply going? You grow 4 plants. After the plants die, then what? So we teach you exactly how to do that. And this is going to be an ongoing an ongoing class series in Norfolk. It's going to be based in Norfolk, but it's open to everyone in the Hampton Roads area.
Yeah. Can I tell you one of the things I love about this, and I know it's not by any stretch, the holy grail of what we need and what we want, right? But one of the things I love about this is that when we give people the ability to grow it at home, we take this whole issue of affordability and we allow our communities who struggle to afford the products, and it's not just our communities, but in particular, we struggle, to pay for normal medications. To let alone, try to afford I could, here in Florida, it's crazy. Like it's just absolutely crazy to go into a medical dispensary and get medicine. And so this, I think, gives people a real opportunity to make their own stuff at home because, again, going back to the business side of it, I see people, I tell you, go find you a supplier, a local small mom and pop grower, and tell them you want to sell their shovels and pitchforks. You know what I mean? Like I said, soil, and you go to your community and then you start selling in your community. And that's a business model already there. We heard about the education. You're doing the education on the growing. Well, we got to get into the education on how do you now take this plant and make tinctures and make edibles and make other things so that, again, you're maximizing what you're doing. And so I really love it from that affordability standpoint, because I think this gives us, it like you said, it takes us out of the hands of law enforcement, but it really gives us some real access to this plant. Absolutely. And allow us to use it how we should, Yeah. So anybody have thoughts on that part as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's what it's really all about, and understanding of how to create our own, right? That's the building and the power of it. And I'm getting so excited listening to this training that you're doing. And I'm like, wow, I need, now I'm thinking you need to come on to one of our marijuana monthlies and talk about this and have this, right? And it's just this power building of our own with each other that is so.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
it is dope. I want people as well too I, you just kind of gave me an idea of something. We talking about growing it for either to smoke it or to make tinctures or edibles or anything like that. My company, we deal with it as a food source. So I'd love to get into people showing people how to grow hemp microgreens and grow hemp seeds and stuff like that. So yeah, I might be doing some stuff on that real soon, man. I think that's a dope idea. And Ernest, talk about again from the business side. People are positioning. Obviously, this is historic, but we still got a path to move towards legalization and the regulatory framework that is going to be there for the industry. And talk about the resources for those people who are really serious about. Okay, no, I do want that dispensary, or I do want that grow, or I do want a very serious ancillary business and so on. How can they get in contact with you, and what resources you have for them?
Well, first, I got somebody for you who can help you out with that cannabis cooking idea.
Yeah.
So I'll make that intro. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think everything that we're talking about here is centered around education, because I think the more that folks know about what opportunities there are, you can sort of pick and choose the route that you want to go, whether it's, home grow and sort of learning about like the plant, or if you're trying to think about, actually tapping into this industry as, a chance to make some additional income or, start your business. So I'll put my info in the chat, but BIPOCAN will be having a presence in Virginia. We have some collaborations with some groups that will be putting on some educational resources. There's one that's about to launch called some classes this fall, Virginia Minority Cannabis Coalition. They're actually going to try to prepare folks who would qualify for under like the social equity guidelines, and train cohorts of folks to go through the business planning process so that you can be educated to take advantage of getting into the industry once the license opportunities come forth. So you can reach out to me and I can share that info. One thing that we didn't really talk about, but I want y'all to know about too, is an organization called No Left Turns. So we still have a lot of people who are locked up and incarcerated. So what they focus on is trying to help people who are through all aspects of that process. So if you're somebody that just got charged and about to be locked up for a few years, they try to guide you. If you're somebody that's post conviction, they try to help folks who are coming out of the criminal justice system and help with expungement and workforce reentry. So these are all great assets. And between everybody here, reach out to us, because we're all just committed to making sure that we can help our people have a chance in the space.
Yeah, and I was about to mention that.
Go ahead.
Project Clean Slate, M4MM, we got it working. So definitely, when Virginia gets to the point of expungement of records, we definitely got to bring that in place. Get the expungement of records, get the social equity license in place, making sure we got the people who are getting those businesses, getting those ancillary businesses to cannabis and hemp, and making sure we can actually have social equity on the economic side of it.
Yeah, and again, I always say so. Our understanding of social equity has to go beyond just the licensing side, and it also has to go beyond just those who have been incarcerated. There are a lot. I have never been arrested for it. Never. I've never been arrested. Period. But so I don't fit the definition of social equity. But I came from a community that did. I have family members who have. So we have to expand our thought process around this. And if you are somebody looking to get into this space, social equity or not, do not wait until they start talking about it and to legalize it, to start getting your business plans ready, start developing your team, start identifying where you're going to get funding for them. This is not it. You have to set up a sustainable business in this space. This ain't just, the weed man on the street, now you can just open up a garage door and say you got a business. That's not how it's going to work, guys. We got to work within the confines of how these regulatory frameworks get set up. And so if you're not sure how it's going to, roll out there in Virginia, look at how other states have done it, and you'll gain some insight on, things you could be doing now to get ready for that. Because you cannot wait until once they start talking about it in the news, you're already a little late.
And let me add one last thing, Eric, too. Now, this may step on some toes out there and stuff like that. We need to have social equity or knowledge and understanding in the churches. When we talk about health benefits, the health, all those different things, yeah. I'm a veteran. Definitely, we have so many suicides, PTSD, things that are going on. When I took this position in Virginia, I have vets that have reached out to me and said, I do it illegal, but it has saved my life. It saved my family's life. We need to really understand the plant and understand the flower and what it does for us medically, medicinally, all those different things.
Yeah, I want to jump in here before we close out, just for some things because what we're saying right now is everything that's coming up. Number one, Eric is saying, don't wait if you want to get involved in the business. And we also cannot wait to make the changes to the bill, you all. So the thing that happened really special in Virginia is that they reenacted the majority of the bill to 2022. That's why right now we're really only talking about possession. So our social equity clauses, much of our equity pieces, we have an opportunity to reshape, refine, and get our pieces in there, particularly for micro businesses that will go even beyond the social equity pieces and the smaller things, the co-ops. We have an opportunity. Many of the legislators here have no idea what a lotto and the social equity licenses even is. So there is a lot of education we have to do right now. And let me educate some people a little bit on Virginia legislators. This is when they decide what bills they're going to take right now in the summer. August through November, we have elections every year. They're not listening to us. Come December, that's when you pre-file. So they will already be ready in their minds. I do not think that we're having a bill limit. They put it on us last year. So these are just things that understanding how your state works, how your state house works, what that cycle looks like.
Civics 101.
Civics 101. But I just want to tell everyone, please continue to follow us. A big portion about this too is there was no resentencing done. You talked about the church, Antoine. I have church leaders tell me all the time, well, I'm about prison reform. And now I have to educate you on why marijuana is part of prison reform. There was no resentencing, y'all. I answer at least 2 emails a week telling family members, I'm so sorry, July 1 has no impact on your family member. Right. Number 2, we still the social equity pieces. The expungement is really only for misdemeanors and possession. And we do not know where the tax revenues will go yet. Okay, it'll go to a fund, but that is also not nuanced enough for us to feel.
And that fund almost never, without nuance, gets to where it's supposed to get. And that's what we were talking about earlier. Like, it is not enough just to set the money aside. We have to be in control of those purse strings and make sure it gets to the places that they need to be. Chelsea, I really, really appreciate, all the work you're doing and everything you're saying. And I agree. I think we all have to go back to basic civics and understand the way things work in our state, because even after federal legalization, this will still very much be a state's issue, and states are going to have decisions to make, and we have to be a part of shaping those, the way that they're thinking about it, so that we can even shape the way that they address it in statute. Because but we said it, we got a lot of work to do, and we're here for it, right? So I thank y'all all for coming on. I just want to also mention one other thing to folks. We also have another one of our national programs in Procure, and it's right now is powered by Curaleaf, and this is all about supplier diversity. So if you are already a minority business owner and you're like, all right, I see some money flowing over here in cannabis. How do I get contracts? How do I work on procurement and stuff like that? You can go to our website right now and register your business. And we are doing tons of different things to help connect the dots for people to the opportunities that are in the cannabis space. And I also bring it up because at 3 o'clock today, we'll be going live again, 3 o'clock Eastern. We'll be going live again with another fabulous conversation all about supplier diversity. We have some fabulous guests from different chambers of commerce around the country who are going to talk to us not just about supplier diversity in cannabis in the current, but we're going to get a little bit of a historical context of supplier diversity through time so that we can learn the lessons we need to learn how we need to do it in the cannabis space. So I invite you all to come back, join us again at 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on our Facebook Live. You can check us out. And again, if you have a business, go to the website, imprecure.org. That's the letter MPORCURE.org, imprecure.org, and go ahead and sign up your business. And again, I appreciate y'all so much, man. This has been such a fire conversation as well. We always tend to go over just a little bit when we are, having such great conversation. But as always, we are here every Friday with CannaTalk with Roz. We invite you all to come back and join the conversation every week, meet some of our fabulous guests. And as always, my message to you guys every weekend, go home, get some rest, love on yourself this weekend, love on your family, because come Monday morning, we got work to do. And I will see y'all again here next week on CannaTalk with Roz. Thank you to all of my guests, and thank you to everybody who tuned in. Y'all take it easy.